starting now.
Fannie Fitzgerald, Clara Harris, Dolores Hampton, and Mary Williams got together, the four of them. They had kind of talked to us about wanting to start a group. So they got together and talked about the group and decided who they wanted to invite to join. And we were two of the ones. And they had a meeting and we all came together. And our reason for doing that was because we wanted to be involved in the community. We wanted to do something for the community because we've always been active people, and that's how WICA got started. And we still are, but at the time we were very active in the community, and our names were out there. John Jenkins, he always attended everything we did. And,
what kind of things did you do?
Oh my God.
We did so much. We had sickle cell anemia clinics. We had, whenever there was some something in the county, we got into help plan the program and be hostesses and so forth. When Jan Bryce, our first African-American lawyer in the county, we served as hostesses and so forth, you know, when she was
they were
named.
You guys were the front lines.
Yes, and Benita Fitzgerald, when she was with the Olympics, you know, we helped sponsor her carrying the torch down Dale Boulevard. And we did scholarships, we still do. We did donations to political campaigns. Yes. And now our main focus is the debutante ball, which we just had this spring.
Yes. Which I'm now a member of.
The baby. I want to follow up on a couple of things, and I want to come back to Denise. The bowling alley. We marched 2 times. Nothing happened. We came back, marched, went to the penitentiary. Well, and I don't have the exact 1968. They took the sign down, but they didn't let the black kids in. So these kids from South Carolina State marched on that bowling alley. But this time, the sheriff had put all these policemen there. And they shot at these kids on that campus. And it's known as the Orangeburg Massacre. 4 African-American kids. Everybody knows about the Kent State Massacre. Very few people know about the Orangeburg Massacre. In fact, when I was meeting with Congressman Clyburn, he's writing a book about his experience. He was at South Carolina State before. And very instrumental at the beginning of the movement on that college campus. Because a lot of the campuses were, you know, I think we wanted change and we were naive enough to really get out there and do it. But they marched, and for some of the kids from the reports were shot in the back of their heels as they were running away. But a young man whose mother worked on the campus was killed, and there was like, it's called the Orangeburg Massacre. The other thing that I wanted to say in terms of the house things, my husband comes from this mixed background, and they were very educated people because they were mixed, and PhDs and all this. And so we have a lot of her, she passed away at 107. And we have all this stuff in the house, and she has these Demetas cups and all of this china, and she had silver from all these. And I thought, why did she? Well, one, they were the elite, black middle class. But then it dawned on me that even though you were a dentist, a lawyer, and he worked at Wilberforce University, that you still couldn't go places. So she said, oh, honey, we had dinner parties. And that was the way that African Americans entertained each other, was through these dinner parties. And when I think about the heritage, when those kids couldn't draw that circle, you come with this. I found a report card, her husband's report card, and it said, you know, at Tuskegee was a recitation room. That part of your report card, and in his report card, you had to recite. And we did a lot of recitations.
We did a lot of memorizing.
So when I started doing MLK, and we were paying speakers to come in, it just hit me that why are we doing this? I bet we could find kids who could speak. And because I realized more and more that I had lived this, you know, where you had to learn your Easter piece, and that's part of our oral tradition. That person, what is the griot in the village? Griot. That keeps all the information, and you passing down the history. So that was a gift. And so those kids, we've done it. It's going to 25th anniversary. Those kids went to the White House, and I can remember the 3rd year in, the third year in, they said, we don't want to recite a speech. Why don't we just write a speech? So we came up with the themes by the content of your character. The kids would write the speeches. And I was, about the 5th year, I was sitting on stage. There were 3,000 people out there. And I looked over, and the kids didn't have their note cards. Miss High Expectations said, where are your note cards? And they said, we don't need our note cards. And because when I was at Central, I would go in that back room up there, and I saw all the valedictorians, and they were all white. And my thought was, what about, I see black kids in sports. I don't see them in academic roles. And so now, that kid, nobody, if you guys watch it, nobody comes to the podium with note cards. Right. If you come with a note card, you just don't win. But getting back to what she's doing, she just did
the Wiz.
The Wiz. And when I looked and I thought, and it was acclaimed, and you can talk a little bit more about it, but in schools, I think people don't realize the gifts. And so some of the African American kids will talk. So I had one who talked, and I said, you know what? I think you're going to be Dr. King, because he was verbal. He was getting in trouble with his mouth. And it's like Eddie Murphy says, somebody said, well, if you're so funny, why don't you have a show at school? And that was the beginning. Because these kids really do come with gifts. Mm-hmm. And I just want you to tell them what you're doing, because I sat there and I thought, it's who we are. Mm-hmm. Tell them about the work.
Well, we recently, the name of my organization is the Creative and Performing Arts Center, KPAC Inc. And we recently had a very successful run of The Wiz. We actually had about a cast of 60, and we had a very excellent young man who recently graduated from Ferrum College with a degree in theater. He had done some projects with us in the past, but this was his first real big directorship. And so we wanted to work with him because he's excellent with young people. And so his name is Chaz Pando. And so Chaz directed The Wiz. We had children that range in age from 4 until adults. We had we had a band, and we also had singers that sang in the pit. And every voice, and this is not exaggerating, every voice that participated in that production was outstanding.
Yep.
We sold out all 7 performances at the Hilton Performing Arts Center.
George Mason.
And at George Mason University, the Manassas campus. The cast, they just gelled together so well. They came to us with a petition to do a 7th show, because we initially started with 6 shows. But they came to us and petitioned that they wanted to do a 7th show. And we thinking, no way a 7th show, because it was Memorial Day weekend Friday. And Friday in this area, in the summer, is crazy, but Memorial Day weekend. So we said no, but no, they promised they would get there on time. They would do what they need to do to start the show on time, because we pride ourselves in starting our shows on time. And so we gave in. We said, okay, this is your show. You're the actors. We're going to let you have your show. And that's what they did. They had their show, and they performed. And the 4-year-old that performed in this show, he had a couple of lines, of course, but he just, he stole the stage. Because he's, make way, was his line. And it was as if, he was just made for that role, and he just did it so well, because we rehearsed for 5 months before we put this production on. We try to do as a professional job as possible. I really think we outdid ourselves on this one.
Wow.
I really think we outdid ourselves on this one.
That's excellent.
And so the amount of children that participated in that piece, who just knew their lines, who was eager to come to rehearsal, eager to recite their lines,
They knew their movements too.
They knew their movements because it was a big choreographed piece. Huge choreographed pieces with the entire cast. So they knew their movements, they knew their lines. You know, they learned to work together as a team. Some were experienced, of course, the 4-year-olds, some were not experienced. But they learned how to work together as a team. Because you know, if you have to know your line in order for this person to come in to recite their lines. And so it just made them such a cohesive group to the point where they're always sending email, oh, we're having withdrawals. So today they're having a big scrapbooking party. But it's just a true testament that if you raise the bar, they can rise to the occasion. They do not need note cards.
No.
They and I think with the theatrical piece, oftentimes I think they think they're playing. And they oftentimes don't realize what they're learning. I remember the very first piece we did was on the life of Langston Hughes. And we used children, teens, and adults to recite Langston Hughes's poems. And 2 teens who narrated his life. Well, the children who participated in this piece, they knew their Langston Hughes poem, they knew the poem of the teens, and they knew the adult poems. And so from that piece, they took away a repertoire of poetry that they would not have necessarily received in school. And I have heard parents come back to say, you know, my daughter tried out for the Little Miss AKA or for the Little Miss Crimson and Cream, and she recited that poem. And I thought to myself, they still know that poem. But, you know, and it just goes with them. You know, I can recall my children participated in that piece. And one of my children was in school, and the teacher said, if you can recite a Langston Hughes poem on Monday,